Hi everyone, today I'm here to talk about The Two Towers by J.R.R. Tolkien. This is continuing my trend of trying to read the main Lord of the Rings books. So I've done The Silmarillion, done The Hobbit, I've done Fellowship of the Ring. Now we're on to The Two Towers. Sorry this has taken a while to come out. I did finish reading it a week ago or so and I just didn't get around to filming. So the Two Towers was very interesting for me to read because I felt like it was very, very different from the movie. And as someone who has only seen the movies before, I read the books a long time ago and didn't understand them. I'll just say that. I was way too young to know what the heck was happening when I read the Lord of the Rings trilogy for the first time, and I never finished The Return of the King. So technically, I can't say I've ever read the trilogy because I never finished The Return of the King. But The Two Towers was, like I said, very interesting for me to read because I felt like The Fellowship of the Ring, although there were some differences to the movie, mostly like how long Frodo stayed in the Shire before he went on his little adventure, and obviously Tom Bombadil wasn't in there, but I feel like the movie pretty closely followed it other than those like major points there. But The Two Towers was way different in many aspects. And so when I read The Fellowship of the Ring, I was like, yeah, I get that fans weren't happy that Tom Bombadil wasn't in it when the movie came out, but like, I don't get what the big kerfuffle is. Like, the movie's fine. It's like a pretty good adaptation, right? Reading The Two Towers made me see that if I had been a Tolkien fan and had been waiting my whole life since I had read The Lord of the Rings and was waiting for these movies to come out, and they came out, I can see now why fans would be upset. So that was very fascinating for me to see, and I am just gonna kind of go over some differences and then like my thoughts on the book as well. So if you don't want spoilers, if you haven't read the book, haven't seen the movies, I highly suggest you actually go do both because otherwise I'm just gonna ruin a lot of everything for you. I thought the movie did a good job of capturing Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli following the hobbits at the beginning. So I guess I should point out the second book starts with Boromir's death. So we already, in the movies, we saw that at the end of the first one. I'm totally fine with how they split the movies up. I think it made more sense for adapting them that way. But yes, it begins with Boromir's death. The hobbits are gone. They decide to go after them. In the book, I'll just say I feel like J.R.R. Tolkien likes to describe a lot of things that, to me, felt just really repetitive. For example, when Pippin wakes up, I'm like, is it Pippin? Wakes up, yes. And he's like, oh, the orcs are here. And they're carrying us everywhere. Whatever. Okay, but then there's like a whole chapter where it's just like, yep, the orcs were carrying us and it sucked. And then they threw us on the ground and we spent the night there. And then the next day the orcs were carrying us and it really sucked. And we spent the night on the ground and that really sucked. And there was just like a whole chapter for this. And same with Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas. Like, it was like, we're following the hobbits and it's really hard and we're running as fast as we can. And we're following clues of where they could have gone by looking at the grass that's trampled. But for a whole chapter, it was just like re-describing this, that every day they went running. Every day the orcs were carrying them. And I was like, I feel like that could have been condensed a little bit. Like, we get it. It sucks that the orcs are there. It sucks that Aragorn and Gimli and Legolas have to run so far and so fast and it's tiresome. I get it. I get it. And so I felt like the movie did a good job of like condensing that, but still showing that like they were traveling a long ways, in my opinion. So that was really interesting, just right from the get-go scene. And I still really like the books, but like he does do that a lot, where it's just like a whole chapter, and I'll get to it in The Return of the King too, about the orcs running, a whole chapter about Aragorn running after them. And I'm just like, do we really need a description of every single day of this journey? And I feel like the answer is no. And that really came across to me in The Two Towers. Other than that, like I said, there were a lot of differences. The elves do nothing. They're absolutely useless at Middle-earth, in my opinion. Just, like, your land is dying, the land you've inhabited for thousands of years, and you're just like, like, we don't really need to help the men with, like, their issues, because that's what it is. In the movie, you see the elves come to Helm's Deep, and the elves help them. Well, in the book, first of all, Éomer doesn't leave. Éomer is there the whole time, and someone else comes in and does, like, that charge down the hill in the movie. I'm totally fine with them taking out that character. I feel like there's only so many characters you can shove in a movie without people, like, not caring about them, you know? And so I feel like having Éomer be that character that was, like, away in the movie makes him a better character when he returns in the movie to do that glorious charge down the hill. I understand why they did that, and I'm okay with that, but also there are no elves coming to help them. No one comes to help them at Helm's Deep except the Ents, which was definitely not in the movie at all. So that was like a huge change, and once again, having seen the movie first, I was like, yeah, cool, the elves actually do something. Reading the books, I'm like, they're useless. And also, like, why did they change it so much? Like, I didn't really understand that, because I liked the Ents coming, and when the orcs are running away, because the orcs have chopped down, you know, hundreds, thousands of their brothers and sisters to help Saruman build in Isengard or whatever, the Ents are upset. And so any orc that runs away from Helm's Deep to try and get away is suddenly confronted with a forest that came out of nowhere, which would be creepy as hell. And then the Ents kill all of them, and it's like, and any orc that ran in there was never seen again. And I'm like, yeah. But in the movie, definitely doesn't happen. I did like the Battle of Helm's Deep itself better in the movie. It just seemed like more pressing, more intense. In the book, it was like, oh, the orcs broke through the wall, and then we pushed them back, and then they came back, and we pushed them back some more. I feel like writing war scenes, at least in the Two Towers, because I've already started reading Return of the King, and some of the scenes in that are really good. But I feel like in the Two Towers, it just wasn't as pressing and, like, to me, the battle scenes. So I felt like that wasn't his strong point in this book. Other major differences, like, the love story between Éowyn and Aragorn in the movies, I feel like is way over the top compared to what it is in the book. Because in the book, Éowyn basically looks at Aragorn, like, lovingly once, like, oh, he's so handsome. And that's it. Like, nothing else happens. There's no Aragorn dying like he does in the movie. Like, he falls over a cliff and they think he's dead. I'm like, did they just put that in the movie to make it longer? Because, like, I get it. Like, it shows that the characters care about him, but, like, we already know that. Like, why was that necessary to put it in the movie when there's not even, like, a hint of any of that in the book anywhere? So changes like that are what's, like, what makes me want to talk to the writers and be like, why did you do that? Because, like I said, changing Éomer's character to be the guy who rides in at the end, just so you don't have to build a whole nother character up, I'm totally fine with that. Makes sense. You're just, like, combining. But, like, completely going off script and just, like, throwing in a random scene, I'm like, but why? What was the point of this except to pull on audiences' heartstrings? But also, fans would be like, WTF is happening? Like, this wasn't in the book. We already know that he lives because we've read the books and we're J.R.R. Tolkien fans. Like, I would love to talk to the writers to ask them why they made those changes. I obviously think they made the change of the elves coming to Helm's Deep to, like, try and convey that everyone in Middle-earth is banding together again or whatever, but that's literally not what happens in the book. I think the elves are a-holes. Like, they literally just don't do anything to help except for Legolas. Like, he's the only one who's doing things. Like, yes, Elrond healed Frodo in, like, the Fellowship of the Ring, but, like, no one's doing anything. They're not trying to help. They're not getting ready to go to war. Like, I don't know. I haven't read the third book all the way through, so maybe the elves do some cool stuff in that, but, like, so far, like, totally unimpressed with them. Just, like, superiority complex losers. I don't like them. So, but it was weird also because in the scenes or the chapter where they're running after the orcs and Aragorn and Gimli and Legolas are trying to track them, Legolas's basically only contribution is that he can see far. And other than that, it's like Aragorn has all the tracking skills. He's like looking at the ground. He's listening to like the earth or whatever and what it's saying. And I'm like, dude, Legolas, what have you been doing for thousands of years? Like nothing, like singing songs and playing music like the elves always seem to be doing in Lord of the Rings when the world is about to die. Like, what is happening here? Like, I don't even know. So I feel like Aragorn is like top tier, and he's like kind of supposed to be like he's descended from the Numenorians, but like Legolas, like come on, man, like step up a little bit. Don't like any contributions. I don't. It was really weird seeing like basically how kind of useless all the other characters are except Aragorn. That's what I have to say about that. They changed Gandalf's reveal in the movie as opposed to the book. That's fine, whatever. They changed Faramir's character. Sorry, this is going to be like a really long rambling rant just about everything they changed. But I like the change they actually made for Faramir in the movie as opposed to the book. I get why fans would be upset once again, like it completely changes his character, because in the book he's not interested in the ring at all, which makes sense. Like he's supposed to be a foil for Boromir, who, you know, went crazy and was kind of obsessed and really wanted the ring in the first one, and then his brother's like, not interested. I'm just trying to like protect my people, and I'm not interested in this ring. And so I like that in some regards, that like I said, like he's the opposite of Boromir, but I like even more that in the movie he's tempted by the ring and then he gives it up once he realizes that it's bad. I feel like that gives Faramir more character development and more of an arc overall in the story, which brings me to like my main gripe with The Lord of the Rings is I feel like no one has character development. And I mean like no one. Aragorn's already cool at the beginning. He, in the books, he's like, yep, I'm the king of Gondor. I have my sword. Like, let's go do this. Whereas in the movies, he's like, I don't really want to be king. But, you know, he takes up the mantle in the third movie. So, character development. Frodo was like already a good guy at the beginning of this. And he's still a good guy. Like, the ring weighs heavy on him, but it's nothing like it is in the movie. Sam's already like a loyal character and he's still a loyal character. I just feel like I'm like Merry and Pippin, like they're always just like, yeah, like life, woohoo, we're gonna run around and do our own thing. Like no one has any character development. The biggest character development in The Lord of the Rings is that Gimli and Legolas don't hate each other by the end. And that is what, in my opinion, makes the movies better than the books. I'm not saying they're better overall. I haven't finished Return of the King. I'd have to wait to read that to like give my overall opinion. But at least in the movies, there's character development, and I feel like in the books, like even Gandalf coming back as Gandalf the White, he's still just Gandalf. Like he was cool before, he was their leader before, he's cool after he's Gandalf the White, and he's still their leader. So I'm like, there's not even any development there, and I think that is what bothers me most is like no one's changing. Like they're going on this crazy epic journey to save the world and they're just like, yeah, we're doing it. It's cool. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So, yeah, sorry, that was like a really long rant. I will talk about Frodo and Sam for a second because the second book follows all the way up until Shelob stings Frodo, and Sam thinks that he's dead and then realizes that he is not and starts chasing after the orcs that have taken him captive. And that's kind of where it ends. Like I said, I understand why they did it different in the movies, just to kind of cut it up and make it fit better with like the screen. I get that. Also, since they took out like the scouring of the Shire completely from the movies, I feel like they needed more in the third movie to pad because they took that part away. And the thing that bothered me the most about them changing from the book to the movie was honestly when Sam and Frodo go through Shelob's lair together. Because I would have loved to have seen that, like, this close bond where they're both scared out of their, like, freaking mines in this giant spider's nest that Gollum just left them in, and I would have loved to have seen them, like, trying to conquer that together instead of having Frodo send Sam away, which once again, like, I feel like it really shows how much the ring is corrupting Frodo in the movie, but like I said in the book, he basically hasn't changed. He's like, yeah, it weighs heavy on me, and then when Sam has it at Cirith Ungol, he's like, give it back to me. And like, that's kind of it. And so going off of that, I feel like I'm not affected as much by things in the book because it doesn't seem urgent or it doesn't seem as pressing, or there's like, yeah, the ring's kind of just making Frodo tired. Like, who cares? Which, I don't know, part of me is like, no, I should really, really, really like the books, but I don't feel like a sense of dread or a sense of like, oh my gosh, Middle Earth is going to end in the books, because I feel like in the Lord of the Rings books, you don't get to know Middle Earth. And I don't know if it's because there's so much thrown in there. Like, they're just traveling all over the place so much. And there's all these different characters and there's all these different lands that I can't even like keep track of all the names. And so when they're like, we have to destroy this ring to save Middle Earth, I'm like, I don't really even care about Middle Earth because I don't really know it. If you've read like The Hobbit, I feel like you know it better. But even having just read The Silmarillion and The Hobbit and now reading the trilogy, I'm like, I don't know any of these places. And I feel like J.R.R. Tolkien writes like you're supposed to know. Like, he's naming all these cities and like other places as if it's like, oh yeah, that's normal. Everyone knows about New York City. Except it's not New York. Like, name some random... Everyone knows about Paderborn in Germany. Like, nope, sorry, I don't. And so there's all these different lands and all these different people and all these different things. And I'm just like, I don't know who these are. I don't know what these are. And so I don't care. Like, eh. So that's been really interesting. And maybe it's because I'm more of like a visual person. I like seeing things. So maybe just watching the movies made me be like, oh my gosh, like, they're all gonna die, no. And in the book, I'm like, oh well, none of these characters have development. They're already like who they are. The earth is just so spread out and so everywhere that I'm like, I don't even get how everything connects. And where are these South people coming from? Where are these people coming from? There's just like I said, too many names, too many things. And J.R.R. Tolkien writes as if he expects you to know what they are. And if he had built more on that, maybe taken out parts about like Aragorn running and Pippin being carried by orcs for 5,000 pages, you could build Middle Earth and like the places more so I'd get more attached to it, I guess. But I feel like that's my main gripes with the books so far, is that I don't feel attached to Middle Earth and the characters have zero development, which makes me care about them less. But I'm still enjoying it. I mean, so I'm reading Return of the King right now. The Rohirrim just showed up at Gondor, and the Witch King was pulled away because of that, and I was just like, yeah, Rohan. So it's like, I do care on some level, and I'm still really enjoying it. It's just, I honestly, I might think that I think the movies are better. I'd have to finish reading The Return of the King to make that judgment, but I feel like some of the changes, like I said, they didn't need to do all of the changes, but definitely with like changing characters so they actually have an arc makes me care about them more. Also, Sauron's like henchmen are so useless. The orcs just fight with each other and end up killing each other. The Nazgul, I don't even know. I'm wondering too, because in the movies, the Nazgul really were like attracted to the ring when it was put on. Like, they could really sense it, and so could Sauron. I don't think that's a thing in the book. Like, it comes off in certain times, like when Frodo in the first book puts the ring on and like he can feel the eye looking at him, and part of him's like, keep the ring on, and part of him's like, no, take it off, like he's watching you right now. But then like Sam is in Cirith Ungol Like, he's in Mordor, and he's wearing the ring. And Sauron isn't like, it's right there, quick, Nazgul, come get it, I can sense it, it's there, right here in my own land. Like, nothing's happening. And I'm like, so can he sense it or can't he? Because I feel like there's a big discrepancy here. Whereas in the movie, it was very clear that if anyone like used the ring or slipped it on, like it was sensed. Like Sauron knew, the Nazgul were like drawn to it. In the book, I feel like it's just kind of wishy-washy. Like, yeah, the ring. So that was really, I'm just like, I'm confused. I'm just confused by the lore. So if any of you watching this know, like, does the ring actually attract them or not? Like, can they actually sense it? Because, like, in my opinion, no. Otherwise, like, they're literally useless. Like I said, Sam's wearing it in Mordor, and they're just like, meh. I don't know. So, yes, that was, like, my very long, rambling review of how The Two Towers was very different than the movie. And there seems to be no character development, but I still, like, enjoyed it overall. I definitely think if you're a fan of fantasy, you should read Lord of the Rings because it was so important to like the fantasy adventure genre, and obviously is still being adapted today, which I think is crazy. That it's just fascinating to me how some things leave such an impact that we're still making adaptations of them today, and other books from back then we're like, I don't even know who wrote those. And so I find that very interesting, and yeah, I understand why fans would be upset now. I get it. Like, there's heaps of changes. It's like almost a different story. I feel like the main points are obviously the same. Helm's like orcs are coming into Rohan, and Frodo and Sam are traveling to Mordor. But like all these little things add up to make me wonder. And I would, like I said, I would love to talk to the writers to know why they made those changes. So yes, that was The Two Towers. Like I said, still read it. I still enjoyed it, even though I just complained about it, I feel like, for how many minutes? 20 minutes? But overall, like, still worth the read. I would still do it. Like I said, it's an important book. It's fun. I loved Frodo and Sam's parts, I think, more. And that was really fun. So yes, thank you for watching. I didn't think of a question, so just like, subscribe, comment down below. What do you think about the books? What do you think about character development? Does the ring actually attract like Sauron and the Nazgul's attention? Let me know. I'm confused. And thank you so much for watching, and y'all have a great day.